Okay. Now, we're going to start talking about out-of-body beings. This is where this class used to begin. There's a lot of confusion about out-of-body beings because, I don't know why, but there is. Because we can't see them, for the most part, right? And when we start to see them, it's hard to, at first, tell the difference. It's just an out-of-body being is an out-of-body being. So things get lumped together. Astral beings get lumped into higher dimension beings as if they're all the same, but they aren't. They aren't. So often, the first out-of-body beings we become aware of are helpful dead people, out-of-body loved ones, people we knew who died, people we knew who loved us and who we loved, and they're coming back and trying to help us. And we think, oh, I have a guide. And my guide was, shout it out, my grandmother, my mother, my brother, blah, blah, blah. You know, all those people who, okay, wow, I was not supposed to say blah, blah, blah. Whoo! Just. So, you see, they love us, and they are more clear than they were in their bodies. And this certainly confused me. And I'm not looking down my nose at people who get confused with this, because I was hung up on this for almost a year. You see? My brother had to leave because I wouldn't quit following him. You see? Because I kept looking to him for answers. And finally he said, okay, I'm done playing this game. I've told you about 1,000 times you're not supposed to listen to me. You keep ignoring me on that. La la la, I can't hear you. I'm out of here. He's gone. I start looking around. Whoa, there's a lot of stuff here. So often our loved ones who've passed over are the first ones we notice. They're very helpful. They open the door to the universe to us, right? Reach past them to the guides. Don't get stuck there like I did. You can. It's a free will universe. Or you can keep going. Just keep going. So take their hand and pass them. Mediums are connecting to helpful dead people. You see? Mediums are. It's fun. Helpful dead people. Oh! Let me get this picture again. I put it back and that was silly. So the asteroid belt is supposed to represent the astral planes. Asteroid, astral, is that cool? And so astral planes are full of helpful dead people. Maybe that's what the dots are. And they're trying to help us, but they're coming at it with their own agenda. They still have their own agenda. You see? They're still, the dividing line between the higher dimensions and the astral planes is this. In the higher dimensions, the predominant vibrations are truth and love. Then there's this hard surface that you can stand on in your out-of-body state. You can stand on it. It's like, wow, what is that? The top of the astral planes. Below the dividing line, by definition, the predominant vibrations are not truth and love. Okay? They're fear and confusion. Because that's the opposite of truth. The opposite of truth is confusion. The opposite of love is fear. Yes? We're on board with that? So these people who love us deeply are still enmeshed in fear and confusion, just like we are. Just like we are. You see? So yes, it's helpful in that it gets us headed upward, right? It gets us headed upward. Again, these angels are supposed to be above the astral planes. Sorry about the picture. I gave up. Maybe I should have pushed harder on that. Does anybody have art skills? See, I know. Me either. So, yeah, everybody says it's easy to change. Okay, help me. Help me. So we reach past these loved ones who are trying to help us to the guides. We take their hand. They want to pull us up, you see, and then we go higher, keep going, go to the guides who are from the higher dimensions and therefore where truth and love are, in fact, the predominant vibrations. Okay, ooh, I turned the page too fast, or I turned 2 pages. So that's our out-of-body loved ones, who we've known personally. Then there are out-of-body healers, gurus, saints, masters, amazing beings, right? They're dead. There's a lot of confusion about this category because they can be very helpful. And often if we've had a strong connection to them in our lives, like when our guru dies, that's a powerful connection to someone who's out of body. Does that make sense? And so we can be very reluctant to let go of that connection. Does that make sense? And it's not that they're necessarily hurting us, but I have facilitated a lot of sessions. It hasn't happened in a long time, but it happened when I was being trained in this. Lots of people coming in talking about their dead guru in some way or another, you see. And they would say, well, and the guru would come into the session and say, you must carry the work forward, basically, fundamentally, right? And then I would look at the guides, and the guides are going, what are you doing listening to them? And so we understand that maybe the person is supposed to carry the work forward, maybe not. The point is, move past the guru to the guides. Continue to move past until we get to the guides. The guides have the higher dimension vibrations. They're coming from truth and love. Consistently, they don't have another axe to grind. They have no other hidden agenda. We'll get to them in a moment. So we move past religious saints. And these are powerful beings. Helpful, wonderful beings. And we just don't get stuck there. Does that make sense? Shamanic healing. We work with a lot in shamanism. There's a lot of working with astral beings, astral healers. It's very helpful. It's very powerful. Don't stop there. Keep going. Yes. Yes.
You were just talking about shamanism, working with astral beings. Is that the? Can you hear me?
Keep the microphone at your mouth and
can you hear me?
me?
Okay, John. Is it called John of God? The
John of God.
Is that who he's working with?
Yes, John
Okay.
of God has something special. You see, John of God is something special. You see. And so John of God is channeling helpful dead people and creating miracles. I'm not John of God. Chances are you aren't either. You see? This is something that everybody can learn to do. We can all learn to channel higher dimension beings. We don't have to be born with a gift, like John of God was born with a gift. So what I say about Jesus is that so how I'm supposed to begin in answering that question is that I was raised Methodist, and there was this moment in church when I was 12 years old where we were doing a responsive reading where the minister says a part and out of the book we say our part. We have a script. And I don't remember exactly what his part was, but I remember looking at the script, and our line was, "We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs from underneath your table." And I thought, whoa, well, I don't know what the truth is, but that's not it. And I put it away. And then I started watching people in church, because I wasn't there by my own free will choice. I was there because it was a required activity. So I started watching the people, and I noticed none of them really believe. They want to believe, they do, but they don't. So I thought, all right, well, I don't know. till I see some proof. I don't know. This is my attitude, okay? So, years pass, decades pass. A lot of stuff happens. My life changes. My brother dies. I'm disabled with a supposedly incurable disease. My life changes, all right? I start having a lot of experiences. A teacher shows up to teach me multidimensional travel. He introduces himself as Adonai. Adonai teaches me pretty much everything worth knowing. Pretty much everything worth knowing. That's how I know him. Years pass, talking with someone else. This great guy upstairs, Adonai, you should find him. He'll teach you a lot of stuff. She starts laughing at me. She says, don't you know who that is? So I go to Adonai and I say, who are you? He pulls out his wallet. He starts pulling out the business cards. Yep, that one says Adonai. You know what the next one says? Any guesses? Jesus. And he keeps laying them out. There's a bunch of them. I think he's someone worth listening to, Doreen. Find him. He'll teach you a lot.
Isn't Jesus an example of what our own potential is?
I don't know. Honey, I don't know. I've asked that question a lot of times. I don't know. He's someone to listen to. Listen to him. What difference does anything else make? It doesn't matter. Labels don't matter. Pay attention to him. Listen to him. He's never going to steer you wrong. I asked him, why didn't you tell me up front who you were? He said, if I had used that name, you would have shut down. Labels don't matter. Labels don't matter. So, one last helpful dead person. One last helpful dead person, and then we'll shift to the higher dimension beings after the restroom break. Our higher souls are the helpful dead person we're most intimately connected with. So, our higher souls are not our helpful source of information in that we're still stuck in our delusions. You see, it's a more clear version of ourselves. It definitely is a more clear version of ourselves. And so we take their hand, and not only do we move past them to the guides, but we actively invite in the presence of our higher soul over and over again. Come into the body, inviting in the higher soul. There was a whole class on it, inviting in the higher soul, conscious connections with the higher soul. It's posted on our website for free, under the, I don't know, you'll find it somewhere. It's on the website somewhere. It's for free.
Doreen, how do we know if a helpful dead person is in the astral plane or has gone beyond?
How do we know if is the helpful dead? You can assume the helpful dead person is in the astral plane. Just take it as your working theory, you see? Take it as your working theory. If it's not a guide, ask to see some ID. Doreen, you're visual. Ask to see some ID. Show me your ID. The guides' IDs look different. They look different. Ask to be shown the difference between your guides' IDs and helpful dead people's IDs. You have the ability. You're far enough along. The answers are always available. When the questions are coming up to us in our minds, when the questions are occurring, the answers are going to be available. Before the question occurs, does it matter? No.
Head class.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That changes the question. It's tricky. You see, it's tricky. Once again, the answer to this is the most effective way to tell is to submit a case study. Write up a case study and submit it to your mentor. This is the purpose of the mentoring program. All of this is subtle and it's tricky. You see, telling the difference isn't easy. Write up a case study and submit it to a mentor. Now, mentors who have sometimes received case studies from other people saying, second opinion on this case study, please. Right? Yeah. You see, so sometimes if the mentor isn't, now everybody gets every mentor gets their second opinion, because who sees all the case studies? I do. I do. But sometimes that isn't enough. See? Sometimes we need a third opinion. So we just gather up the opinions until there's consensus. It's like, what is happening for this person in his or her work? It's like, this is a case study, I don't know what to do. So a mentor can submit it to another mentor, you see, and say, help, what do you think is going on? Like, something's wrong here, I can't tell what's wrong. Mentors, correct me if I'm, shout out, is this true? Is what I'm saying the truth of how our system works? It's happened. It's happened. Do I review all the case studies? Do I chime in? Do I call you on it and say, wait a minute, what's happening on that case study? Right. 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 So that's the only way. It's too confusing, you see? It's too confusing without the mentoring. That's the purpose of the system. It's the purpose of it.
One quick question. When people talk about the ascended masters, I know a few people that work with them and you hear it a lot. Are they just like very powerful guides?
So what do people mean when they use the term ascended masters? Different people use the same words differently. That's what's so confusing. People will say they're working with guides, and when I connect with the energy of what they're working with, that's not a guide, that's a helpful dead person. There you go. That's not a guide, that's a helpful dead person. Okay? So different people use labels differently. That is what is so confusing. There's so much confusion about this topic of out-of-body beings. People say they're channeling angels, and then when we look at what they're channeling, sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't true. People say they're channeling guides. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't true. So that's right. That's right. And so what it actually depends on is where are their channels pointed. And so as you start to learn, that's what comes after certification is then you start to learn how to, if you wish to continue on, you know, people who do continue on, start to learn how to assess the alignment. Where are people's channels pointed? If their channels are pointed out, are they connected with guides? No. Are they connected with angels? Only through grace. You say only through grace. No, but in general, no. Are those ascended masters anything other than helpful dead people? If their channels are out? No. No.
Let's say if they were connecting up.
Well, if they were connecting up, then it could be. You know, it could be. It could be. Okay, it's after 12 o'clock. So the point of all of this is that there's a lot of confusion about out-of-body beings. A lot of them are in the astral planes, not in the higher dimensions. And to learn to differentiate between the two. Until we actually have mastered the art of connecting into the higher dimensions, until our skirt gets blown up, to use Pat's very colorful phrase, and wonderful phrase, like until our skirt gets blown up, we don't know that there is such a thing, right? Until we actually start to connect with higher dimension beings, we can think we're doing it. You see? We can think we're doing it. Does that make sense? This is the purpose of getting, this is the purpose of the mentoring program, you see, to help us get around that corner and to learn what we're actually connecting to. Now, friends, there can be a tendency, here's a tendency, I'm just going to say it quickly because I'm required to say it. There can be a tendency to think, when we submit the case study, I'm right and my mentor is Wrong. I'm right and my mentor is wrong. Is that going to help us grow? No. 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 I want to tell you my personal assignment, what I'm evaluated on. Is numbers of people who actually have the alignment, who are actually doing it for real, not for pretend. Am I competitive when it comes to grades? You betcha. Would I love to get an A on that? You betcha. Am I failing right now? You betcha. I'm failing. I'm failing. I want for people to keep their certification skills, because that's when I get a good grade.
This is so helpful to be able to receive feedback and mentoring.
Christina says this is very helpful to be able to receive feedback and mentoring. That's correct. It's extremely helpful because the DDD is powerful and none of us are exempt. None of us are exempt. Not me. None of us. This is why we all submit case studies. Does that make sense? Okay, restroom break, 12:08. Oh, 08 again. So back at 12:18, and then we'll shift to higher dimension beings and we'll blast through. I don't know.